Hello, everybody. It's Fiona Lukis here, and it is Friday, December the 2nd. And here I am for Friday, December 2nd, Facebook Live. This is a Q&A section or Q&A session, I guess, where you can ask me any questions that are in your mind. Bring them to me, and I will do my very best to be of service and answer them for you. So, I guess I wanted to start off by saying we are approaching that time of year. It's the holiday season. It's where the relationships can kind of crack under the pressure a little bit. People are tired. They don't have as much bandwidth, and people have a tendency to kind of reflect, think about what they want to create next year, all that sort of thing. And it can be a time of year where relationships can feel the strain. So, I really wanted to jump in here today because I wasn't able to join you last week. I'm sorry. I had a 4-day intensive with a client who spent 4 days with me, and then I had a lot of catching up to do with other clients last Friday, and I just didn't have time for this. So it's been a couple of weeks. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we can create together today. And I thought I'd start by kind of talking about the elephant in the room that can appear at this time of year. What it's like towards the end of the year when you've got a lot of different things going on, and relationships can really feel the strain of that at this time of year. So I'm going to speak to that, as well as a couple of questions, obviously, that have come through. And if you are watching and you want to say hi, I'd love to know where you are from. Always love to know who's listening, who's out there. I know we are coming up to the crazy time of year. People have got lots of commitments and lots of things on. So, and I know that not everyone can join live at this time, but if you are live and you'd like to say hi, I would certainly love to hear from you. Let me know where you are listening from in the world. And if you do have a question, please post it in the comments below, and I will do my absolute best to answer it for you. All right. So, whilst we're just waiting, there's a few more people. Sometimes it takes a little while for the live to kind of filter through people's channels to let them know that it's happening. So there's a couple of people, a few more people joining us. But whilst we're waiting for that, I guess I do want to address, because I've had a few people message me, and for a lot of people, and I know in the US you've just had Thanksgiving. There's quite a lot of things going on that involve family and extended family at this time of year, and I also understand that the holidays are not the holiday period is not always a time of joy and happiness here for people. People are spending time with people that perhaps they don't get along with, that they're not looking forward to spending the day with. People are operating from a place of guilt around that. Oh, I should spend time with this person, but I don't really want to. And you've got blended families trying to work out what to do with Christmas Day with kids. And so there can be a lot going on at this time of year. So I really do want to speak to that today, because I know navigating our way through that can be tricky. And I know that it can be a time where people can have really big blow-ups. And so I wanted to kind of talk about some of those things with you. But thanks for saying hi, everyone. Hi, Julie. Julie from a very rainy Gold Coast. Yes, I actually was speaking to a client before who's on holidays there, and she said it was cold and freezing. I can't imagine the Gold Coast being cold and freezing, especially in December. You guys are supposed to be sweltering up there. So thanks for saying hi, Julie. Kirsten, hi, Kirsten. Nice to have you here. You're in Sydney. I hope the sun is shining for you in Sydney. And hi, Nicholas. Nice to see you. Hi, Nick. You've been on holiday for a few weeks. Okay, great to have you back on Alive. Well, it's a beautiful day here today, I have to say. But it's been the weather has been, we've had a pretty ordinary start to summer here in good old Melbourne, but it is gorgeous today. It's about 27 degrees, no wind, blue sky. It's very, very, very nice. So I always love it when the sun is shining. All right. So anyone else who wants to jump in and say hi, please do. I always love to, I really do love to hear where people are from. I think it's wonderful that we can all be together, even though we're in different parts of the world at the same time. It still gives me an absolute kick. I still love it. I still think it's just absolutely divine. So if you are watching, say hi. So what I was sort of saying before, and I've got a couple of questions I will answer, but what I wanted to speak to is, this time of year, how it can feel like a bit of a pressure cooker for some people. Hi, Robin, new here from Los Angeles. Welcome. Great, love it. Thanks for saying hi and letting me know where you're from. Welcome. So this time of year can feel like that pressure cooker, okay? And like I said, it's this time of year for some people is this wonderful, magical, fantastic time. For others, it's a time of reflection and not and feeling uncertain about the new year. People spending holiday time with people that they don't normally hang out with much, and that they're nervous about spending time with. Maybe you're spending time with in-laws that you don't know very well. Maybe you've got blended families that are blending for the first time and you don't know how that's going to go. Maybe you've recently lost someone, and this is really a time of really noticing that they're not there because you're normally together. So I know this time of year can be a real mixed bag for people, okay? And I know this is often a time, and I've had a number of people reaching out to me in the last week saying, Fiona, I'm stuck. I don't want to go through another year like this. I'm going round and round in circles, whether that be through a toxic cycle with a partner or a son, there's lots of parents and grown up children that I deal with who are in conflict, or maybe you're struggling with a business partner. I get a lot of that as well. So, it's not just intimate relationships, but the great thing about the understanding that I teach is the answer is the same. Doesn't matter what relationship it is, the answer is the same. You can take this understanding into each and every relationship in your life and see the difference and change and what's possible from a relationship there where there's been a lot of conflict to where there is more ease and flow. Because what people don't realize is that you have far, far more power and influence over a situation than we can ever have any comprehension of. However, you don't create power and influence from control and manipulation and guilt and all of those things that people tend to do through anger, through judgment. That's not the type of influence I'm talking about. This is how we push people away. So, Yvonne, it's 1:40 a.m. in Barnsley, England. Oh my goodness, Yvonne, that is okay. Gold medal to you. That is very impressive that you are here at 1:40 a.m. in the morning and in the UK. I know this is a terrible time for people in the UK and Europe. So I'm very impressed that you're here and you're awake and you can even type something, Yvonne. So good for you. I love it. Love it. This time of year can be a real mixed bag, and I appreciate that. And I guess, it comes back to some of the things that I've spoken to before. Hey, Sandy. Hi, darling. Always lovely to see you. As you know, always, always, always lovely to see you. Is it snowing where you are now? I've got a few clients who I was speaking to a couple yesterday in Minnesota who said they were in the middle of a snowstorm. So I'm guessing the snow's starting to fall wherever you are. If you're in that side of the world where it snows. It just doesn't here in Melbourne. My kids have never even seen snow, but it's wherever you are, if it's snowing, I know that can be a blessing and not so much of a blessing. But anyway, so if you are someone who is dealing with a situation where maybe you're a parent and your adult child has blocked you from their life, I get a lot of people reaching me in that situation. Okay, a lot. That's very, very common and devastating. Perhaps you are someone who would normally be spending Christmas together as a family, and the family has fractured over the year or over COVID, and that normal family time isn't happening this year, and you're grieving the loss of that. So, I know that there is a lot of this going on in the world, and I want to speak to that because if that is you, you are not alone. Okay, I really want you to know how common this is and how easily it can happen and how it can really take people by surprise and that navigating that can feel like a minefield. Okay, so I really wanted to speak to that today. And I guess the first thing I want to say around that is if you are in that situation where perhaps this time of year is not what you thought it was going to be due to some of the things that I've mentioned, or you've had a family member kind of turn around at the last minute and say, no, I don't want to spend Christmas with you. We're doing something else this year. Or maybe you find yourself with nowhere to go at Christmas and or the holiday season, and you're feeling really alone in the world. Okay, and I know there are a lot of people who feel that way, who aren't fortunate enough to be surrounded by loved ones for whatever reason, and or relationships have fractured. And I guess I just want to say to you, if you're dealing with something like that, you won't find the answer out here. Okay, you won't find the answer. So I really want you to hear this. If you're going round and round and round and round and round in your head, replaying every little thing that's happened, every word that was said or not said, if you're analyzing what you said, if you're analyzing what the other person said, if you're thinking, which is what so many of us do, you will not find the answer there, right? When we overthink, it gives us a false sense of having control over something we have no control over, because it gives us a sense that we're actually doing something about something we can't change, right? That's what overthinking does. Now, I get it. I understand it. However, what it does do is it's exhausting for you. It disempowers you, and it has you feel incredibly stuck, because the more you think, the more emotional we become, the stronger the emotional reaction. Okay, so the more we think, the stronger the emotional reaction. And I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding out there that you can think your way out of a problem, or you can think your way out of a feeling. There is no such thing as a solution to a feeling. That does not exist. You cannot think your way out of a feeling. Feelings just pass on their own in their own time. They really do. You cannot think your way out of a feeling, and you cannot think your way out of a problem. All that does is we go in deeper and deeper and deeper into something, and we go into a thought storm. We go into a black hole of thought that just sucks the life out of us. So if I want to speak to that, because this is the first thing people normally do, right? They think and 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 they think, right? I want you to imagine that when you're doing that, your brain is like a snow globe. Okay? That's what your mind's like. It's like a snow globe. Now, if I had a snow globe in my hand, and oh, hang on, I can use this. This is actually a weather. I don't know why it's got so much. It's quite warm here, so I don't know why it's showing so much cloudiness. It should be clear because it's so warm. But imagine when you're thinking. All right, your mind is like this, right? Now, I want you to think. This is what you're doing with your mind. And from that space, you're looking for clarity. From that space, you're looking for an answer. I want you to really think about this, all right? This is what your mind is like. All those thoughts, all those emotions, all those ideas, all those assumptions, all those what ifs, how abouts, how comes, whens, whos, whys. This is what your mind is like. And you think from there you're going to find an answer. You're going to find clarity. The only way that we find clarity is because clarity is something that finds us. We don't find it. Does that make sense? Clarity is something that shows up. Now, the only way you're going to find clarity is when you put it down and you allow things to sit and settle. People don't have enough trust in this. It's very powerful. So you understand, when you let something sit and settle, and let's pretend there's a snow globe and there's a picture of the Swiss Alps in here or something really cool, right? Now, if I'm shaking this thing, you're not going to be able to see it. But if I let that settle, all of a sudden the image shows up. You get clarity. You get an idea of what to do next. So the first thing you want to understand is that all that thinking achieves nothing, okay, except have you feel stuck, exhausted, overwhelmed, looking like the mountain is enormous. So I want you to see this is the effect that overthinking has on us. And it's very, very detrimental to our relationships, far more detrimental than what people realize. Okay, people get really caught up in the superficial stuff, like values. So I'm going to get yelled at for calling values superficial, but you got to understand, anything that you look at where it's like, oh, we need to be on the same page, we need to communicate, we need to do this, we need to do that. You cannot achieve those things if your mind is full and cloudy and busy. Okay, so when your mind is clear, see, there is a lot more. You have more bandwidth. Imagine, right? Imagine a busy mind. So this is a mind that's clear. Look at the bandwidth. Okay. Now, when a mind gets busy, look what happens to the bandwidth. Absolutely no bandwidth. No bandwidth. This is a massive problem in life and relationships. People trying to deal with problems and issues when they have no bandwidth, right? I don't care how hard you try to communicate, how nice you are, how anything. If you have no bandwidth, you have no capacity to be patient. You have no capacity to be compassionate. You have no capacity to be understanding. You have no capacity for anything because your mind is so full, there is no bandwidth, meaning you have no choice. You can't choose anything. You certainly don't have room for fresh thinking. You don't have room for insight. You cannot see the forest for the trees. When we have bandwidth, there is so much more of us on offer. Okay? So much more of us on offer. We have capacity to listen, put ourselves in someone else's shoes, put down our rigidity and rules, and consider something else. Now, if you don't have bandwidth, there's no point trying to solve something. This is what I mean, that people focus on things like communication and, whether they have things in common and going on date nights or spending more time together. That's all well and good. But doing that over the top of a lack of bandwidth, you'll wonder why people have these explosive arguments and things don't go well. Because when people have no bandwidth, they just project their stuff onto each other. They connect in a very toxic way. They blame, they judge. That's what I mean by projecting. They make everyone else wrong, or they make themselves so wrong that they're unable to connect. Now, when your mind clears, so here's a clear mind. Look how much is on offer when your mind is clear versus when your mind is not clear. Just this simple thing alone is life-changing. But people have no concept of whether their minds are clear and whether their minds are full. They don't know how busy their minded they are, how much they're overthinking, and how much this gets in the way. When you're overthinking, if you're wondering why you're yelling, angry, reactionary, this is why, because you have no bandwidth. Okay? Now, I want you to know that you can have bandwidth even if the situation hasn't changed. So I'm going to come back to the first thing that I said. If you're struggling in the holiday season, if things are not showing up the way that you thought, if Christmas isn't turning out the way that you thought it would, if you're someone who celebrates Christmas, I appreciate not everybody does, and then we have different types of celebrations at this time of year. But if things are not the way you thought they would, the first thing you need is bandwidth. Okay? Bandwidth changes everything, right? See, when I have bandwidth, I feel calmer. I feel like the overwhelm dies down. Okay? I feel like when I've got bandwidth, I can handle more, right? Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, everything. I can handle more when I have bandwidth. When I have no bandwidth, my ability to handle anything, like, and this is an example of a lack of bandwidth. You lose your car keys and you're having a meltdown, right? Oh my God, I'm going to be late, right? Just the car keys. When you're calmer, you're like, I can't believe I got so upset about my car keys. That's a lack of bandwidth. If you're arguing with your partner over who has done more, who's done more organizing, who's cleaned the bathroom, who's not done this, who picked up the towels, who last got the milk, who did this, if you're having those tit for tat arguments, neither of you have any bandwidth. Now, obviously, when we've got no bandwidth, goodwill falls through the floor. Can't create goodwill when you've got no bandwidth. You can't listen when you've got no bandwidth. You can't do any of those things without bandwidth. And yet this is something that people don't even talk about. This is why I say to people, there's no point talking about communication if you haven't discussed bandwidth and a few other things that need to be handled beforehand. That's like shutting the stable door after the horse is bolted. Okay? Trying to get two people to communicate who have no bandwidth just ends up in a screaming match or a yelling shut down kind of scenario. You cannot, like, do you know what I mean? You've got to look at the overall conditions. All right. You've got to be able to notice where people are at and see if you're in the right space for that conversation or whether the other person is in the right space for a conversation. And a great indicator of that is how fast is your mind going and do you have any bandwidth? You know, a big part of what I talk about and what I teach in my program Relatable and with my clients is really helping them get to know where they are. So they know exactly in a split second whether they have bandwidth. They know in a split second whether they have thinking they can trust. They know in a split second whether they're running an old pattern. And so they can see that before they jump in and start projecting on people. So in other words, when you get to know yourself that well and you're that comfortable in your own skin, you stop doing the things that you just automatically do and you don't even realize. That can be quite toxic and damaging in our relationships, right? You have a lot more capacity for reflection, for fresh thinking, to deeply listen, to be able to hold space instead of rushing in and fixing. You've got capacity to show up in this really expansive, beautiful way. Now, when people do that, and everybody can do this because human beings are naturally hardwired to do this, would you believe? It's just that we're not taught this stuff. When you start to learn this and you start to do this, the impact on the people around you is enormous, and especially the impact upon you. Because you sit there and you think, oh my goodness, look at how I'm showing up. Look at how I'm handling this. I'm not taking this so personally. I'm not jumping down someone's throat. I'm not rushing in to rescue and save and fix. Oh my God, I'm not people pleasing everybody. I'm standing in my own power, not in a negative argumentative, controlling way, but in a calm, grounded, present way. Who knew that I could do this? And who knew that when I did this, it would have such an enormous, profound impact on the people in my life? This is what people don't appreciate is on offer for them. Okay. And we get scared of how we feel and we get scared of not understanding what's going on. And then we do this. And then from there, we try and fix stuff, solve stuff, have conversations. We make meaning out of this foggy, messy, and we've all got it, overwhelmed, overstimulated mind that has no room for anything. When your mind is like this, you tend to go into the past for your answer. You'll never find the answer in the past, guys. It doesn't. No. Do not look in the past for your answers. The past is done, gone. Your answers come from fresh thinking in the now. They do not come from the past. That's how you just end up cycling through the past and repeat, right? The answers come from fresh thinking in the now. But you can't have fresh thinking in the now if you're doing this, right? I hope this is making sense. I'm going to check in. I know some people have made some comments here. Julie, my best friend is an alcoholic and has been amazing lately, and things seem to be going her way. She's had a very tough life and only has her kids. All her family has passed on. Right. She hasn't had a drink in 3 years. Wow, good on her. I called her the other night and was shocked to hear in her voice she'd been drinking. She was argumentative, etc. I just spoke with her as usual and didn't say anything, but as our conversation went on, I knew definitely that she had been drinking. Should I say something to her or just leave it? Okay, should I say something to her or just leave it? I guess, Julie, if you're going to say something, if she's a really good friend of yours, why not? But you wanna ask it from a curious way, not a what's the matter with you? Why have you been drinking way? You want to ask it from a really curious, neutral way. Hey, how are you? What's going on? I noticed you had a drink the other night and you hadn't had a drink in 3 years. Is everything okay? Is there anything, I'm here if you want to talk. But just gently feel your way into it. Okay, because she may need someone to lean on, but she may be too embarrassed and etc. But just gently, curiously, neutrally. That's very, very, very important. Okay. Sandy, yes, had a bit of ice and snow on Tuesday, which was your birthday. Oh, happy birthday, Sandy. Happy birthday to you, honey. I hope you had a wonderful birthday. You're a little you're a Sagittarian. Oh my goodness. Oh, how interesting. My daughter's a Sagittarian. Look, I'm not crazy about star signs, guys. I'm not going to have a star sign conversation. It's just that when I when I meet someone who's got the star sign of someone in my family, I go, okay, the good thing school closed for you and your grandsons. Your grandsons came to go sledding. That would be so much fun to go sledding. I'd love to do that. I'm glad you had a great birthday, Sandy. I really am. Kirsten, this makes perfect sense. Now I'm going to visualize that snow dome always. My pleasure, honey. So glad to hear it. Hey, everyone. I got my daughter a snow globe a few weeks ago and she relates to it in ways I never imagined. Yes, Brian's done my relatable program, so he knows what I'm talking about. Awesome. Good for you, Brian. So how do you get more bandwidth? Look, that's a really great question, Belle. It's a really, really great question. How do you get more bandwidth? Well, I guess bandwidth is one of those things. First of all, you have to know you. All right. So the first step is knowing when you have it and when you do not. Now, that's something that most people don't have a point of reference around. Okay. Most people don't have a point of reference around because as human beings, we operate best through realization. Okay. We really do. In fact, that's really how we create change. We create change via realization. Now, realization comes via insight and fresh thinking. All right. Now, the problem is, when we're doing this, when we're thinking, all right, We're generally going round and round in our concern and our worry and our upset and our what ifs and our fear. Okay. That's what overthinking is. It's you going round and round and round in your analytical mind, thinking about all the things that could go wrong, that have gone wrong, that might go wrong, and you're thinking about all the things that you could have done, should have done, all the reasons that you could have done things differently, that person, right? So you're in fear mode. This is when we tend to do most of our thinking, when we're in fear. So, there's not one answer to that question, Bill. There isn't. I mean, I can give you a couple of pointers, but really it's an understanding of a number of things that you draw from that enable you to get more bandwidth. Now, one of the things is recognizing when you have bandwidth and when you don't, because we have this amazing capacity for realization as human beings, and that's how we create change. So often the realization that I'm overthinking is enough for me to get more bandwidth. All right. It's like, when we are, and I use this as an example because I think this is an easy one for people to realize, but as an example of a realization, if I have my hand over a hot stove and my hand is burning and hot, the realization that my hand is over a hot stove is all I need for me to remove my hand. I don't need to go and do a 10-step program on how to remove my hand from a hot stove, do I? Right? The realization has me go, oh, and it stops. This is something that people don't understand enough about the way people work. People think we need systems and steps and processes. We don't. What we do need to do is understand the power of realization and know where to look for it. Okay. Another thing that I'm very, very passionate about, because when you see that, life becomes simpler and easier, and you stop doing all of this working on yourself and figuring things out and managing yourself and managing other people and all of that stuff that sucks the life out of you and has you doing this and takes up valuable bandwidth. Okay. Truly it does. All that overthinking, it's amazing when people's minds slow down, they get bandwidth, and they start having realizations, they start looking in the direction of realizations, they start valuing realizations, okay? And all of a sudden, that becomes more interesting than all the concern. And so that is another way in which we get more bandwidth, when realizations become more interesting than our concern. And so we stopped becoming gripped by the fear and the worry and the shoulds and the shouldn'ts and what abouts and how comes and what happened last year or 5 years ago and what might happen next year. And we're actually a lot more present in the now. Now, when you're present in the now, you meet the now very differently. You meet the now with a calm, clear mind, because you're not trying to work the now out, are you? You're just in the now. This is why people talk about this so much. In the now, there's nothing for me to work out, is there? It's just the now, the now, the now, the now. I don't have to think as much. I don't have to work as much. I get to meet the now. When you start living your life that way, it's incredibly freeing. To me, that's emotional freedom. To me, that is being comfortable in my own skin. To me, that is trusting in life. To me, that is connection. To me, that is love. To me, that is bandwidth, choice, empowerment. Because I'm not trying to figure everything out. I'm connecting into something bigger than me, and I'm trusting in the now. It is possible to live your life that way. And I'm not saying every moment of every day, but as an overarching thing. And when you do, this is the kind of calm that you have internally. Truly, you do. It's the most beautiful, amazing place to live your life from. Now, believe you me, I say this because this was me. Constantly overthinking everything all the time. Okay. And because of that, I had a lot of resentment and judgment and self-righteousness and upset. And I would just keep coming back and back and back to that. And I'd just go back there and back there and back there. And then I would just project that out. That was me. Right. Another reason why I'm so grateful that I came across an understanding that had me doing more of this, living more in the now. It's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. It's what turned my marriage around. It's what enabled me to move through life with a sense of lightheartedness and playfulness and connect and show up the way I had always wanted to, but really didn't think was possible. And I think for a lot of people, they don't believe that they can do this. And I want you to know that if you are watching this and you react to things and you're struggling, of course you can. Everybody can. The only prerequisite you need is to be a human being. The rest is easy. Trust me, It is. It's just that you look in the wrong direction for the answer. You get really, really frightened. You don't understand when you're overthinking. You don't see that, you don't know the power yet of bandwidth and calm and what that actually means and the price you pay when you don't have it. And all of a sudden you get to draw from those things. And you bring that into your moment of now, and you bring that into your relationships, and you meet that moment of now, that person, that situation, that circumstance from this space instead of from this space, right? Try having a date night with someone like this versus having a date night with someone like this. Okay? Try communicating with someone like this versus communicating with someone like this. Massive, massive, massive difference. And you want to understand as well, when you're doing this, your emotional intelligence is very, very, very low. When you're doing this, your emotional intelligence goes through the roof because you have completely different thinking. Okay? And so we have very, very different types of conversations. From here, you can have a meeting of the minds with someone. From here, you can step into someone else's reality. From here, you can be expansive and patient and compassionate and kind. From here, you stop making it all about you. These are all the mistakes people innocently make, that destroy relationships or make relationships extremely difficult. Okay? And we do these things not because we're broken, but just because we just don't understand and we've not been taught this stuff. Okay? We've not been taught this stuff. Never, ever, 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 ever try and fix a problem when your mind is like this. Don't even bother. Like, seriously, don't bother. You will get nowhere. Yet this is the problem in relationship counseling and in marital counseling that I see. And I'm on a mission to change it. They get people to sit down in a room and both of their minds are doing this, and then they get them to talk about their problems. Can you imagine? It's like putting a match in it's like putting a match to gasoline. And then they walk out of that session and go, oh my God, we are worse than I imagined. We're never going to get there. I mean, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was this bad, right? I do not put people in a room when their minds are doing this or in a session together. No way, okay? I want to teach them about bandwidth, how to show up from here first. We make sure people have that understanding, okay? And then we look at what makes sense. But we absolutely do not do this, okay? We do not do this. This gets you nowhere. So the first step is in appreciating that this achieves nothing, right? You want to have a really, really deep appreciation of that alone. So because you want to, right? You want to lower your tolerance for this. So most people have a tolerance like this for this, right? Meaning you don't even know your mind is busy until you're up here. And then you've got very little choice. What you want to do is lower your tolerance for this to this. Now, when you lower when your tolerance is lowered to here, your mind only has to start, and you're like, yeah, no thanks. You got way more choice here than you do here, okay? Now, part of that is getting to know you, understanding how we work as human beings, and this is all the things that I teach in my online program, Relatable, right? If you really want to know this stuff, I can't teach you this in a 20-minute, half an hour live. I just can't, right? I can do whatever I can in this time, and I do. You guys, if you've been watching these lives for a long time, I do whatever I can in these lives to help you as much as I can. But if this is something you really want to know, you have to take the leap to the next point, which is enroll in my program, Relatable. This is where I teach this stuff to you, right? Over 8 weeks, you're in the program for 12 months. You've got group calls. You've got an amazing community. You've got, like, truly, it's amazing. You'll learn all of this stuff. And you can start living it in your life, right? And you can come back and ask questions. But if that's something that you really want to know, this is what I teach there, okay? But I just wanted to give, for those of you over the holidays, a sense of this, because a lot of people don't even have a point of reference for this stuff, right? We've got to start somewhere. Some people have no idea that their minds are doing this. None, okay? Absolutely none. I can tell you right now, I knew I was busy-minded, but I had no idea of this. Truly none. Nor did I understand the absolute havoc it was wreaking in my life because of this. I had no comprehension, truly. Now, as I started to see that, my tolerance for this started to drop. My tolerance for anger started to drop. My tolerance for resentment started to drop. My tolerance for self-righteousness started to drop. Now I've got more choice here than I do here. Okay? Way more choice. And what you're looking for is choice. Very hard to stop overthinking when your mind's going at a million miles an hour here. You've got way more choice here. Okay? Um, Hi, Jason. How you going? Nice to see you. Thanks for dropping in. Hi, Diane. Oh, Disa. Hi. Nice to see you, darling. Nice to see you. Okay. So for those of you who are struggling, you really want to know a lot of the upset is coming from this. Truly it is. Okay. That's the first thing I really want to point out to you. It looks like it's coming from all of these things. I get that. But you want to see that a lot of it is coming from this. You would actually get some relief if you had more bandwidth. Okay. So stop overthinking about it. Wait for your mind to clear, and it does. We have a naturally self-clearing mind. Our minds do this naturally when we understand how they work and we give space for that. It'll do it on its own. And then from there, you've got more room for fresh thinking and insight, because that's the only thing that's going to help you change any kind of situation. You won't find the answer here. This is just the stuff that you already know that is contained in our busy analytical mind. Okay, there's nothing new in your analytical mind. It's everything that you know, and what you want is something fresh. That cannot come from here. It comes from here. Okay. Now, I just want to come back to the question that I need to answer today. I've got a couple of questions here, but this one here I think is one that I was meant to answer last week, but because I didn't have the live, I'll answer this one first. Hi, Fiona. I've really enjoyed your Facebook page and have listened to all your question and answer sessions. I was wondering if you could answer my question perhaps during your upcoming session. How do you approach infidelity and distrust in a relationship? I found out recently that my partner of 4 years was straying during a difficult time in our relationship when I took some time away. The most difficult part for me was that he did not tell me. Though he is a very intelligent man, his self-knowledge and ability to communicate his innermost thoughts and feelings have been a bit of a blind spot for him. He also has difficulty connecting with me physically, and when I question him as to why, he says that it's because he can't move beyond our conflicts. I love this man dearly despite these monumental issues, and I don't know how to wrap my head around it. Okay. Cool. Look, I guess there's a couple of things here. If you are dealing with infidelity and you've decided that you want to stay in the relationship, hey Tanya, thanks for saying hi, darling. Nice to see you. If you're dealing with infidelity and you've decided, so hear what I'm saying, and you've decided that you want to stay in the relationship, the first thing you've got to do is make peace with what happened. If you cannot stay in the relationship and keep throwing that in the other person's face, right? If you're choosing to stay in the relationship, you have to make peace with what has happened. If you cannot make peace with it, then you need to get out of the relationship. All right? That's the first thing that I want to say. You got to make peace with what happened. The way to make peace with something is to get curious. You can't do it through a busy mind. Just wait for your mind to clear. Is to sit with things, is to be reflective and see what makes sense to you. Your relationship with your own wisdom is very, very important. Again, another thing that I teach in Relatable, okay? Because you want to be tuned into you and see what makes sense to you. A lot of us make decisions from a place of fear, which is not wisdom, wisdom is like your best friend that sits on your shoulder that always knows what is best for you, all right? And will always give you the answer that's related to your highest good. Okay, so having a relationship with that is super, super important. It's something that I cultivate and I consider one of the most, if not the most important relationship in my life. I am always cultivating my relationship with that because that's where I look for the answer. Saves me asking 1,000 people out here or 20 people out here, getting 10 different answers and getting stuck and overwhelmed and not knowing. Your wisdom always knows what's best for you. Okay, so if you are in a situation where there's infidelity, you've got to make peace with that. And if you cannot make peace with that, then the best thing you can do is leave the relationship, because you're just going to be in this toxic cycle where the other person feels shame, you feel self-righteous, and you just go into blame, shame, and self-righteousness. And you know, that's horrible for everybody. And really, that's just where both of you are doing this over and over and over and over and over and over again. And it's like a big figure 8, okay? Like this. And there's no end to it. And nobody wants to, you don't want to be in a relationship like that, guys. It's not worth it. at all. So you have to make peace with that. Now, I've worked with many people who do make peace with that. Okay. It's possible. 100% possible. Infidelity does not have to be the end of your relationship. In fact, it can be the making of it. All right. For some people, again, this is not for everyone. I get it. But if you are in a situation where there has been infidelity and you really want to turn that around and make it work, it is possible. Okay. Truly, it is. And to actually move forward together, but create a relationship that's got a different baseline, that's got a different level where you both feel empowered, you're in partnership, there's connection, you're able to be curious, connect, communicate, all of those things, but without all the toxicity. And often infidelity happens because of that. I'm not saying every time, but often it does. And so, infidelity can be a point where you realize this is your wake up call. Just like a health scare can be for people. There might be people who've been heavy smokers and they get a wake up call that they've got the beginnings of emphysema or something else, and they realize that's their wake up call and they're finally able to stop smoking. I mean, this happens all the time, right? So sometimes infidelity can be the wake up call, but it can be a wake up call of, okay, what do I need? What do I want to create? What do I want to bring to the relationship? For me to get curious and reflective. And this is something people aren't great at. They tend to see reflection as being judgmental of themselves or someone else. That's not being reflective. Okay. If you're being judgmental, you're in your ego. Okay. That's not reflection. Reflection is when you're sitting with something, you're trying something on, you're giving yourself an opportunity to see something different. You're asking different questions. You're reflective. Your mind is open. Okay. You're not blaming, judging you or someone else. That's not reflection. And reflecting is super, super important for us because that's when our mind is most open and we're most likely to get access to insights and fresh thinking. They are the things that do all the heavy lifting for change for us humans, by the way. Okay. We don't understand this enough. We get in our minds and we're working, and we're actually not leveraging off the power of these things, which make change really super easy and simple. Okay. So that's the other thing that I want to say. Now, if your partner is struggling to connect because they can't get past the conflict, then you want to sit with that and say, okay, what, and ask questions, like understand their reality. So an example of that would be, what do you need in order to be able to get past the conflict? What's important to you? How do you think we're doing with the conflict? Like, what does conflict look like to you? Like, in other words, I'm finding out what is that person's reality. I'm not sitting here defending my own, which just has us doing this. I'm going to get curious. Now, this is very important. You can only be curious when you're comfortable in your own skin. Okay? Because most people think they're being curious when they're being defensive and they're justifying. That's not curiosity. Curiosity is showing up with no agenda and seeing what's possible in that moment. So you've got to be able to bring that to the table and find out, okay, he's giving you some clues. He's actually giving you clues here. And that is, I can't get past the conflict. Okay, how come? What's going on for you around that? What is it that you can't get past? What are you stuck with? What do you need from us? How can I assist with that? Now, this isn't like sitting there and peppering 1,000 questions, by the way. You're not going to do that. You're just going to ask questions gently and see where the answer takes you. But you need to stay neutral and curious. Neutral and curious. This is something people struggle with massively. Okay? Again, another thing that we talk about on our Teach and Relatable. And you actually realize you can do it and you can bring that to the table and it feels amazing. Okay? So these are the things that you want to be able to bring to the table so you can actually find out what's possible for the two of you and what can you actually create from what's happened here. Now, again, I say this is for someone who is wanting and actively wanting to save that relationship, wants to be in that relationship. Okay, so remember that. I'm just going to put I've had a few people messaging me asking me for the link to Relatable, so I'm just going to put that up there. Here is the link to my Relatable program. You can find out and register for it there. So that's what I'd be saying in response to that question. Let me just double check that question again to make sure that I've covered it. And I think as well, the difficult part for you, I can see that you said, is that he did not tell me. But you want to kind of because some people don't do things because they're frightened and scared. And we tend to compare that and think, but I would have done it. I would have done it. But you've got to understand that's your reality. That's not somebody else's. Again, you've got to be able to explore and understand somebody else's reality. I talk about this in my ebook. Okay. I talk about separate realities and understanding them and why that matters in my ebook. Okay. Um, so it's being able to sit, be curious, and find out what his reality is. That is how you can move forward from something like this. But again, you need to really be honest with yourself and say, can I make peace with that and put that behind us? Because once you decide to move forward after there's been infidelity, that doesn't give you the right then to throw it in the middle of something like a bomb. Okay, because that just destroys goodwill. It causes relationships to implode very, very, very quickly. All right. So you have to take ownership over that. I've made the decision to give this a go. If you have, you cannot grab that thing and throw it in like a hand grenade. That's on you. Okay. Just understand that. Very, very important. All right, everybody. I've been speaking for 45 minutes. Wow, it's been a long one today. I hope this has been helpful for you. And I will be here next Friday. I'll be taking a break in January, so there won't be any Facebook Lives for the month of January at this stage. I want to take a nice, big, long break and hang out with my family and get into my garden, which looks like a jungle. So I'll be doing Facebook Lives up until the week before Christmas. So if you have questions, anything you want me to answer, this is your time to get those questions answered. And if you want to approach the holiday season and all of this very, very differently, everything you find on how to do that and what you need is in my 8-week program, Relatable. If you've got a question, send it to hello@fionalukis.com.au and I will answer it for you next Friday's live. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, I'll see you all next week. Take care, everyone. Ciao.